everybody, it's me, Kendall, your Teen Services Librarian. I'm back. Today I'm going to be talking about another book that I've read recently, which is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is a fairly new title. It came out over the summer. It's the author's third book, if I'm remembering correctly. Her other book, which I have here, this is The Poet X, which is a fairly popular title. Some of you may have read this one. Her other book is called With Fire on High. That one we also have, but it's currently checked out at the moment, as it's another popular title. However, Clap When You Land is probably one of the best books I've ever read. It's really touching and heartwarming, even though it's about grief. So the major themes of this book are grief, growing up and figuring out who you are, and starting over after a tragedy. The characters in this book have to figure out where their life is going to lead them after their father dies in a plane crash. So you start out with this book, and it's pretty impactful right from the beginning because we're dealing with this plane crash. And then you start getting to know the characters, who are Yahira, who lives in New York City with her mother and father before he passes away, and her extended family. Her aunts and uncles are frequently mentioned, her cousins. And then you have Camino, who lives in the Dominican Republic, and she lives with her aunt. And her father only lives there in the summer. So Camino waits all year to be able to see her father every summer. And he's getting ready to come see her when his plane crashes. The thing that connects these two girls together, they have the same father, which they only find out because he dies in that plane crash. It's a shocking turn of events that just completely upends their lives. Camino, living in the Dominican Republic, doesn't have the same privileges that a lot of people would have in America. So she is struggling to figure out where her life is going to go and how she's going to manage to do things now that her father is gone. And Yahira is living with this secret, knowing that her father had another wife. And she thinks that nobody else knows. And she's trying to figure out how she can adjust to the fact that her father was this amazing man that she loved, but was also this other person who had another life that he kept secret from everybody else. And then they find out about each other, and things get even more topsy-turvy from there. It's heartbreaking and heartwarming, and there are funny moments and moments that will just make you cringe because of the things these girls are dealing with, but it's such a powerful book. As I mentioned about the privilege earlier, there is a lot of focus on cultural themes and privileges that other people have that not everybody else may have. It is an Own Voices book. The author is from the Dominican Republic. She has typically written characters that are in an Own Voices manner. So this is continuing with her theme of doing that. It's also powerful to recognize that she wrote this book in honor of American Airlines Flight 587, which was a plane accident and has ended up getting very little coverage. It was a flight from America to the Dominican Republic, just like the flight in this book, and many people lost their lives, and a lot of people don't even know about it. So this was the author's way of honoring those people. One of the things that is really attractive about this book is that not only is it Own Voices, it has LGBTQ representation in the best way. One of the characters has a girlfriend, and they just have such a lovely, sweet relationship. It gave me so many feels, and I just loved it so much. There's also a lot of Spanish words and phrases in here, which I find really interesting. I don't speak Spanish. However, I am willing to look up the words so I can learn what they're saying, and I think it just adds something to the atmosphere of the story. It just feels really real. The world, I guess not really world building, that doesn't really make sense because the Dominican Republic is a real place, but because the author has been there and has family there, she's able to paint a really vivid portrait of what the Dominican Republic is like, and you can just get totally swept away in the life of Camino, the main character who lives in the Dominican Republic. The biggest recommendation I can make for this book is that I think anybody could read this book. It is written in verse, so it's very free-flowing. I'll show you some of the pages here. Each section it's broken up between Yahaira and Camino. They each have their own sections, and all of it's in verse. They both have very distinct voices, and you really get to know them as characters, which is great, but the verse itself is just beautiful. It flows so easily, and even though this book is a little over 400 pages, you are gonna fly through it. It's such a quick read because of the way it's written. It's very engaging. The writing itself is beautiful and descriptive, and you can hear it just in your head as you're reading it. It just kind of bounces along, there's a beat to it. And I just loved that. I think even the most reluctant readers would be interested, in this book. One of the other things that I think is really fantastic about this book is that how it shows the grief that these girls are dealing with. Grief is not an easy thing to overcome. There are many stages of grief, and that's the thing that this book shows really well, is how everybody handles grief differently. There are various stages of it, and we all have to work through those stages to be able to come out on the other side and overcome that grief and learn to live with it and move on. Ultimately, I just really loved this book. I definitely plan on reading the other author's other books because this one just really got to me. I think I even teared up a little bit at one point, if I'm being honest. It has a lot of great female characters in it. It focuses on the female characters, and they're all so strong, and they support each other even if that might not be the easiest thing for them to do. So I can't really say anything bad about this book. I loved it. I think a lot of other people will love it. It is just a wonderful story to add to your collection, and I highly recommend it. Next on my list of her books will be Fire on High. I've decided to go backwards in how she's had her books published. So she had that one, and then The Poet X, which is right here. I'll probably read that at some point too, and maybe I'll be reporting back on those books. Anyway, if you like books with free-flowing verse that you can experience other cultures and other languages and really connect with the characters, I highly recommend Clap When You Land. Again, it's a wonderful book, beautifully written. The verse is just wonderful, and I highly recommend it. I will be back in a couple weeks to talk about John Green's book, Looking for Alaska. So if you're curious about that book at all, tune in next week for that one. If you have any questions about any of the titles I've talked about today or any other young adult titles, I am more than happy to help out. You can give me a call here at the library or you can email me. My email is kendall.chapman@bhpl.net. If you need to, you can always go to the library website. You can see what we have in our catalog. You can also find me on there, so if you don't remember what I said about my email address here, you can find it there. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about the book talks. If you decide to read this one, I'd love to know what you think. But for now, that's all I have for you. So until next time, bye everybody.